gender conversations or agendas being pushed onto kids that are very, very young. That's something that was very top of mind for me.
Like, I disagree and agree with points on both sides, but if I were to have voted in this election, I would have to look at what is of most priority.
And I'm looking forward and excited for the first 90 days and see what measures they take to actually do good on their promises that they had for the American people, because the American people pretty much gave them a second chance.
Didn't the stock market also like jump so high?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's how you know people have faith.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started.
Welcome back to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Bosch, and I'm with my co-host,
Mama Bosch.
And today we're going to be discussing a little bit about the election and what we experienced in the week leading up to it and then the results of it.
Okay, so how did school feel that that Monday? Because the election was last Tuesday.
Yes.
And
so the whole week before, people were talking about it. In my history classes, I have a bunch of friends that are in a U.S. government class. Mm-hmm. So this is a perfect... having an election year when you're in that class is almost perfect. People started talking about it more, I guess posting certain things on their stories, like their political opinions, trying to... At least I know that on campus for high school, the seniors are the ones that can vote. Or a select few seniors.
And so the seniors are able to vote.
So it was it was almost, I feel like we have a very calm campus, but the tension, not tension, but like there
was a lot of tension.
There was tension built up slowly. Mm-hmm. Until you got to the Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And here in Phoenix, I go to a private school, but it's probably one of the most liberal and liberal schools here in town.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And the amount of MAGA hats, like Make America Great Again, the Trump hats that I saw, did not match the school. I saw so many
families probably that are conservative, and
which I was a little bit surprised.
You were surprised?
Yeah.
I know that there was one kid in the weeks leading up to it.
Oh my God, some freshman
that was showing up with his MAGA
I'm
hat.
like, you're a few years away from being able to vote.
And but when
he's there every single day with his hat.
Now when
he sells them too.
Well, but was he not asked by the school to not wear it?
He was no, he was, you can wear it, but when he started wearing them, everyone was like, what's he doing? Like, because everyone...
Did it make the rest of the people that, conservative people uncomfortable? Or was it more of like the liberal kids that
It's the liberal kids that were voicing their opinions, meaning like, why is he wearing that? I feel like school should be like a neutral space for you to just learn. And all of that is valid.
But the school is also, because of its liberal tendencies, is all about free expression and self-expression.
Yeah, that's it's one of the key principles
values of the school.
Of the school is, I am an individual and I know how to think. So, I know how to think, meaning your own opinions. I am who I am. Like, I'm here,
and so
type of thing.
And so, in spite of those values, him bringing his hat.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he was selling it at school.
Okay.
So, I think that was more of the issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of campaigning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At school is
Basically having an entrepreneurial venture in school, and that was...
Well, yes, but it's not that it's an entrepreneurial. I think it's more tied to the controversy in the election, that it's so I don't know the word, but it's like so aggravating to some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they rather just not have it.
It felt
at
divisive.
all.
Yeah. So what about you, Sophia? Because I know for, Dad and myself that week, even that weekend prior to the election, we were thinking, okay, we have gone through several election cycles in the past, but there is something very different that feels very different about this one, that requires even that us proactively, communicate to our entire team, some expectations from our end as far as how to conduct ourselves, with existing clients and prospective clients. And for us, we felt that it was important, for example, on that Monday, to send out a message, which I posted in one of our team chats, saying that this is a week where, or this was a week, and it continues, I think, to be now 2 weeks after, a time where there's an incredible disappointment from half of the country, because their person didn't win. And whether the outcome would have been the opposite, there would have been then basically the people that would have voted for Trump would have felt very, disappointed about the result if it would have been the other way around. In either case,
I heard the disappointment. I saw all the people's stories. I'm not a type of person to like post on my social media about that stuff. I feel like that's...
Yeah.
But people were crying. People were throwing tantrums. People, it was insane. I'm like...
Well, when you feel so strongly about something, that's what I was getting to, that because that week, half of the country was going to feel incredible amounts of disappointment, regardless of where, that you want to exhibit basically respect, that you want to exhibit, love, that you want to exhibit kindness, that you want to...
Openness.
Exactly, openness. And more than anything, that in our, in our interactions with our customers, that we have understanding for the election results going one way or the other,
for them,
and for how they show up, that there's going to be a little bit of raw emotions, and that we, as part of our team, that we need to be prepared basically for that, and to give either side, space to basically to feel how they feel, and to still basically, regardless of who we're talking about, whether it was a pro-Trump or a pro-Harris, customer, that we're giving our very best to them in everything that we do, and to keep calm more than anything. Because I was fearing that, that either way that the outcome would go, that there could be actual tensions, like on the streets, with people basically being incredibly unhappy and aggressive and violent about the results of the election. And thank goodness, that didn't happen.
So far, so good.
That didn't happen, but I didn't know that going in, So on that Monday, I was like,
yeah, it's
oh
very
my gosh.
Unpredictable. This one, it felt like, I feel like last election, yes, I had an idea, but to be honest, I didn't know who was blue and who was red. I didn't even know. And the one before that, who knows? I was tiny. But this one, I felt very educated. So I feel like it made me more aware of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus that I'm 1 year away from being able to vote.
Yeah. And so then Tuesday comes around, and what...
everyone walking around with their bright red hats
in school.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you came home.
And let me say, because it's a liberal school, all of the teachers are Democrats.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So,
how can you tell? Is it because they're
you can tell.
They're imposing their viewpoint? Or are they pretty neutral? And for example, when you have a history class,
it depends on the teacher. Depends on the teacher. So, some of them you can tell right off the bat. Some of them you have to take a second. Some of the way they say things, like the way they explain things, you can tell.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Other teachers, my friend and I, we were trying to figure it out for the longest time, and then we finally think we got it. But it just depends on the teacher.
Okay, so then Wednesday comes along, and it's clear, it's obvious, our new 47th president is Donald Trump.
That's when
what was the climate like in school?
I'd say, like, my school is, for it being very, very liberal, I'd say it's a good half and half.
Okay.
Or at least the half that is Republican, they're more because of their parents, because maybe, like, the economy, like, the business side of things.
So a lot of entrepreneurial
I don't think, yes, or, like, because it's a private school, there's a lot of wealth there. So people want maybe to protect their money a little bit more with the cut down taxes. Things like, I don't know. That's just my guess. And so I don't think there's anyone or very few that are like, they don't know why they're Republican.
Why they're Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so they're basically voting or in favor of a candidate because of basically family affiliation.
I like, in a sense, it is more left leaning in that sense, like, all together.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's half and half. But in the classroom settings, first day, or like that Wednesday, first period was my history class. And I'm in U.S. history right now. And so, of course, we're going to talk about the election. And you could tell the people that were upset. And you could tell, like...
How did he start that conversation? What was his premise for basically initiating the dialogue?
Honestly, I think he could have done a better job, but he's like, do you have any questions about anything about the election? And I'll try to answer them as best as I can. And then people, like, it started with, like, how, like, just to start it off, no one's gonna get, like, at 8 a.m. into, like... the very, very nitty-gritty, but people started, like, what's the Electoral College? Things like that. Okay. Like, how many seats in the Senate are being, or, like, things like that. Or House of Representatives, things like that. And then you started slowly getting into people's opinions.
Okay. And I'm sure they were very mixed, because like you said, families, it seems like the families 50% are leaning conservative and then the other 50 leaning liberal. So for us, I know that as a family, what was very important was number one, conservative values, and basically this issue of, or I having an issue with gender conversations or agendas being pushed onto kids that are, very, very young.
That's something
something that was very top of mind for me. Number two was the health and the really actual lack of health epidemics that we're living in this country because of processed foods, because of pharma. So that was very...
We just had an interview with a lady, and she's like, oh, your health, it costs so much to actually get healthy food. I'm like, but we did that to ourselves. Like, that's the standard that the government has put on. Like, they make...
Basically, like, being healthy expensive.
And so, therefore, the whole society is so
or everything
unhealthy.
Being trying to be solved by with a pill versus preventative and actually eating wholesome food and so on and so forth. So that's the second thing that was very important to me. The third thing that was important to me is the economy and basically I, and together with dad as entrepreneurs, we seeing how difficult the economic climate has been in order to
Also,
operate and
inflation.
stay in
Hello.
business and actually, create a profit and being of service and just even seeing our students basically
Yeah.
see the, the turn in terms of like people expecting, crazy amounts of money for, for their land because of
Yes.
inflation and so on and so forth. And so
Just
for
people
us,
don't have the ability with inflation to
so for
actually pay
us,
that.
the economy was a third very important factor, and I would say the fourth one for me is protection of the country that we live in. And so securing our borders, even though I'm an immigrant, I'm a person that wants to feel safe. I don't want basically just a terrorist to come into the country, and be able to just prance their way in through the border, especially after, dad and I have gone through a 10-year process of going through this,
Legally.
the legal way. And then to add to that, basically,
And Papa, I think even a little long.
yeah, and for him a little longer because he wanted to keep his German citizenship. But and then basically in the context of that, of how protected I felt or not felt, also the discussion of foreign policy and the amount of wars that the US is involved in right now, and seeing, a huge amount of money being sent towards basically funding these wars. And then we have national catastrophes
We're all the way around.
We're
all the way across.
Yeah, and then having catastrophes here, like, natural catastrophes, like the two hurricanes that we had, and then we having not the ability to support families here inside of our own country. And so those were the things that for me were very important. And one of the reasons why, we voted, and I think I know because of the results, a huge majority of the American population, voted on those issues, being forefront and foremost of importance to them.
Yeah, and I think you bring this up right now, like the priorities. I think everyone sees those 4 or 5 points that you talked about.
Yeah.
And they put that as a priority, even though I do not think both, like, I disagree and agree with points on both sides. But if I were to have voted in this election, I would have to look at what is of most priority. Like, some things, yes, they might be important, but they're not as important for the livelihood of our country as some of, like, they can wait a little bit.
So basically, even though,
it can't be perfect. It's
exactly,
just the best option.
The personality is not entirely exactly somebody that exhibits I don't know, levels of kindness and respect that I would expect, from a leader. But I basically separated personality and put policy as my guiding principle, basically. And based on that, I decided that I'm going to put personality on the side and I'm going to look at this person's intentions. And for me to gauge someone's intentions, it was really hard in the weeks leading up to the election to gauge it from media. It wasn't until
it's so bad. The media is actually screwed up.
It wasn't until actually Dad and I went and participated in one of his rallies, the last one that he had here 4 days prior to the election, where he was speaking, and also Robert Kennedy Jr. was speaking, and a few other people were speaking, that we had the chance to actually, experience, President Trump in an environment where he wasn't being attacked, where he wasn't being...
He was sitting on a couch.
He was just sitting on a couch, talking to someone.
Or like a comfy armchair. Yeah. It looked comfy.
It was comfy, and I recognized that the intentions behind this man, were the right ones, were the good ones. And sometimes, you have to give yourself the opportunity to stay open-minded and put yourself in a situation like the one that we did, where we actually, made the effort to go to the rally and hear basically firsthand from that person, because I think you lose a lot when you're just hearing or seeing someone, even on social media or on TV.
On TV, it's so scripted and it's so biased that it's either side. Like, I don't think, like, the extreme on either side is good, but
one side is being portrayed as very negative, the other one is sounding very scripted. And so you don't know what to believe, is what you're saying.
It's gone so terribly that I feel like we just need a whole reset on that thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things actually that was paramount to your dad, was basically freedom of speech. And that's why he also voted conservative, even though in past elections we have gone really both ways, conservative or liberal, depending on who the person was.
But in this case
for us, it was clear that, that we needed to look at someone to come and basically run the country that that had a track record of success in the past, which he had. That basically it was track record of success over rhetoric that we were hearing in the media. That was important to us, and
of course there's also going to be like counter arguments to all of these, but like it's what you believe is true, and that's all that matters.
So how do you feel now, that he won, and in general, like the tension in the school, has it improved now? We're in week 2 after
it's improved. People are talking about it a little less. But we have, like, there's being discussions held still. People are still unhappy for various reasons, but
what I have noticed for us, or for me,
people are kind of accepting it.
What I have learned afterwards, after the election, is that I need to fact check both sides, that I cannot basically trust legacy media to go and say,
everyone can make mistakes too. It doesn't matter who it is.
Whether it's media that
fact check all of them,
that is leaning to the left, or media that is leaning to the right, that I need to go and do my own research, that whatever is being said to me, that I cannot just take that, and
run with it.
Run with it, that I need to go and make sure that I do my research, that I that I know what is true. And it was incredible to realize that also, number 2, that podcasting has become such an important way to get to people and to get, to get to the
Joe
masses.
Rogan.
Yes, that
was
over
insane.
34 million.
How long was that?
Views. That was a 3-hour interview.
I tried to watch that.
Yeah.
I had to put it in.
That was something actually. That was something actually that I was like, I really wish that we would have had an opportunity to hear from Kamala in such an environment as well, where she
didn't podcast.
Yeah, but she wasn't willing to come and do a 3-hour. She was only willing to do
a
45 minutes with him. And what happens is, in 45 minutes, you don't have the opportunity to have follow-up questions, with someone.
It's just very surface level, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as a presidential candidate, there's so much to, like, touch on, and 45 minutes is like just barely touching on surface level.
But so it was interesting to see basically how much podcasting influenced this election, and how important it is to to really get to know someone in an environment where either they're not in favor or they're not being attacked. You're just being interviewed by somebody very neutrally that is basically having tough follow-up questions for you. And
it's not like you're going onto a news channel where you're getting questions directed so one candidate is getting the questions beautifully passed on to them, and then the other one is getting bashed basically on TV.
Yeah.
It's not.
Is that how you felt?
It
When you were
seemed
watching?
very unfair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very unfair. But I know that's like the TV provider, but then you have to get to the root issue, which is the bias in the TV
Yeah. To
person.
begin with. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
People can just accept it, but
So, what I have heard from a lot of entrepreneurs that I have spoken to, is that it's a relief, the moment that the results were there.
well, didn't the stock market also like jump so high?
Yeah, absolutely, it did. It did without him even being president yet, or having
Or just
been inaugurated.
just literally knowing that he won, it just skyrocketed. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's how you know people have faith.
Yeah, exactly, and that confidence in someone.
Yeah.
Exactly, was palpable and was actually
like the numbers are there. Like
Yeah.
it's not even like, oh sure maybe. Like how can you not believe it? It's like right in front of your face.
Yeah. So now, my biggest thing right now is getting to basically inauguration, and seeing who
When is
he
that?
appoints.
January?
In his January 6th. I think he's certified, and January 20th I think he is inaugurated, if I'm not mistaken. 20 or 21st. I'm not sure.
I should probably know
Yeah,
this.
we'll look it up. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing who he appoints, in his different what elected officials for his cabinet, and
that seems interesting.
and how basically he just takes on that very first few months, or first 90 days of him being in office, and what things are going to come from that. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm just also incredibly I would say with a little bit still of tension, and I actually pray for leadership at that level. These are people that we should pray for.
It's hard.
Because there's going to be tough decisions that are going to have
Not
to be made.
everyone can do that.
That not everyone can do that, but more than anything, that he can get to that point on January 20th, because we know that he has been...
the assassination attempts,
there's been a couple attempts, and so...
That's crazy.
And not only for him, but also for Robert Kennedy, his family, we have two assassinations in,
that's bad.
In that family's past, and so it would be great to just see them basically get to office, and I'm looking forward and excited for the first 90 days, and see what measures they take to actually do good on their promises that they had for the American people, because the American people pretty much gave him a second chance, and I hope that he takes that chance and has something, and builds and creates something amazing.
At this point we can only hope.
Yeah, exactly, that that he basically builds a legacy based on this second round at the Oval Office, so that he's not just remembered for an amazing political comeback, but for actually helping the people that help elect them, because at the end of the day, that's what all of these elected officials are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be representing us, the people, and making sure that that our voices are being heard, and that the best of the country is being taken into consideration, and is being kept in mind, and
and so we can also be the best, I guess, partners to other countries also in the world
as well. Yeah, to be a model and an example.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Well, thank you for chatting with me about just the results. I was very interested in hearing what was going on in school on the days leading up to it,
very interesting,
on the day afterwards, and I'm glad that the kids basically didn't go crazy on that first period after the election, but they were very inquisitive and wanting to learn about how the Electoral College works.
They're like, so how does this work, and how, like, they're like,
it's not a direct democracy like in Honduras, where you vote, and based on those number of votes, which they call here the popular vote, the president is elected. Here, basically, that popular vote then tells the Electoral College, or for that particular state, depending on the population of that state, each state has a number of votes, and then they basically then decide to,
go one side or
the other. Yeah. But in either case, I was excited to see that the great experiment of the founding fathers is working. That when things got too crazy to the left, that it fixed itself, that it came to the right, and
it'll just keep shifting.
And it'll just keep shifting. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sophia. It's
Thank you.
Nice chatting with you.
So, what were your thoughts about the election? Comment them and leave us a 5-star review. Thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate it. And on to the next video.
Until the next episode. Thank you so much for being with us.